This video is going to be a bit on the long side. It's going to take you through the entire process, start to finish, of making what has, I guess now people are calling it the diamond style handle. It looks like this. And these are excellent for strap doubles, trios, and also any pre-built pyramid bases if your team does strap pre-builts. For all three of those, my personal recommendation is you don't use anything except this. Over the years, I think I've skied on pretty much all the other types. The ones where it's just a single line with a peg of some size. Some of the pegs are quite large, even full handle size. Some were made out of rubber handles. Some have been like gnarled plastic. Some have even been wood dowels. To me, this is the best, strongest design that's out there. Shout out to the Cap City ski team. They don't exist anymore, but they were one of the teams that formed Mad City years ago. And to the best of my knowledge, this was their invention many, many years ago. So to make this, in addition to the tools mentioned in the basic tools video, the cutting tools and the fids and that kind of stuff, you're going to need a few extra items. Here's what you're going to need. A handle is the best. Just a regular rubber ski handle. It's been cut down, a good sturdy one, good quality. This is a 6-inch one. These can also be made with 8-inch handles. I've even seen them made with 10-inch handles, but that tends to start getting in the way. Even the 8-inch, if that rope's peeling out, I've seen them catch around the edges of the handle sometimes because of the way you have to hold them when you're in a strap. So my recommendation is 6-inch, but 8-inch work as well. These have been a challenge to get lately, but it sounds like some places are going to start carrying these again. The good ones are going to have a good solid grip, 1-inch end caps on the end, and they're going to have the brass grommets in the middle. And that really helps keeping this rope from fraying, from your rope from fraying inside of there. Some people have gotten these, they've cut them down themselves and just drilled a hole. I've had to do that myself at times, but just know that the handle section is not going to last as long, and typically it's going to break right here. It's going to fray up after a couple of years and break. All right, so 6-inch handle is one of the things you need. You need 2 pieces of rubber tubing or plastic tubing, whatever it's called. You can buy this at some water ski supply places. My recommendation is go to your local automotive supply store. Whatever it is near where you live, you should be able to find this. This is commonly used in automotive applications. Typically hardware stores carry it too, but not always. This specific ones, the ones that I tend to use, but it's up to you, is the 1/2-inch ID, so 1/2-inch interior diameter and 5/8 OD outside diameter. So you want to get some of this. You can buy it in long sections. You can buy entire spools of it. If you're going to be doing a lot of these, it's probably cheaper that way. But if you are working with a 6-inch handle, these also need to be cut to 6 inches in length. And they need to match really precisely. And you'll see why as I'm making the handle in front of the camera. You'll see why having these be the exact same length saves you on some measuring at a tricky time when you're doing some of the knots on the handle. So make these both 6 inches long. You also need a quick link or a chain link. Different people make these differently. I like the quick links that can actually unscrew. And of course your question should be, well, why would you want those to come off? Because other people go by lengths of chain and then they cut every other link off to get just a loop of chain that works for this. To me, that's kind of a waste. That's a lot of chain, and ideally you want these to be stainless steel if you can get them, and stainless steel chain is super expensive. I go and get the quick links. Hopefully they're at a hardware store near my house. You want the 3/16-inch ones, or in metric, I believe it off the top of my head, it's 5 millimeters. So it's either the 5 millimeter if you're going metric, or 3/16-inch. That gives you the maximum amount of weight capacity on these, but if you go any bigger than this, it doesn't fit in a lot of the release clips on the doubles harnesses and the trios harnesses. So 3/16 inch is your magic number. Get them in stainless steel if you can. They're hard to find. If not, you can use the zinc coated ones. Just realize that they will potentially corrode and rust over time as they get beat up. When you get these, even before you start making your handles, grab a pliers, crank these things really tight because you don't want them coming undone and coming loose on people as they're in the middle of a show or tournament. So crank this really, really tight, and it should stay that way, forever after if needed. But the nice part is, at such time as these begin corroding, especially if you use the zinc ones, you can get a pliers back on these, loosen it up, pull this off, put a brand new one on. I have from time to time, under very heavy loads, seen these bend or snap. It's pretty rare, but it's happened. Again, another way then it's great to be able to just get it off of there and pop a new one on without having to completely remake the handle. Another caution on these. I have seen a lot of knockoffs on these, and I can't necessarily tell you where to go to get them because I keep having to get them from different places myself. If you order from Amazon, be really careful. I've seen a lot of imported knockoffs on these, and they're made of really chintzy grade metal, and their breaking strength is significantly less. So I would stick to a hardware supply place near your house probably to find better quality. Typically, I think the breaking strength on a single one of these is about 800 pounds or something like that. But you'll definitely want to check into that. So those are the extra pieces of equipment that you need to make this diamond style handle. I'm going to get the camera repositioned, do my best to show you. It does get a little intricate in this, how to make one of these. All right, let's get started with this diamond handle right here. First thing you need to do, you need to measure out on a length of rope that you have the 6 foot mark. So 6 feet, I'm taking a Sharpie marker, making a nice dark mark right there at 6 feet. So this is going to be the end. This 6 foot section that I have is what I'm actually going to be working with and tying the handle. The rest of this, going off camera, is still attached to the spool of rope. You don't have to do it that way, but if you want to cut it right away, you better leave a good 8 to 10 feet out that way. I tend to just leave it on the spool, make these each one at a time here, and then we'll do the rest later, and I'll show you the rest of it as it finishes up. But to get started, nice dark mark at 6 feet. That's our starting point. On the end, I have twisted on a bit of electrical tape, really tight, and that will come in handy in just a moment. You'll see why when passing the rope through the handle, because the fids won't typically fit. All right, I'm going to get a fid on the end. I'm going to find that mark, and I'm going to place that mark over the top of one of the holes on the handle. Doesn't matter which side, that's up to you, because we're going to work our way all the way around the handle. I wrap the rope around the inside here. Got to come inside of the other one. And then I jam the fid right through where the black mark is. I jam that in there. Now here's the trick. I have to then pull this out, get the fid through, and take the fid off. So I end up with something that looks like this. That's why I wrap this with tape. I now pass that straight through. Okay? And I have this big giant loop sitting out here, which is what I need. I then pull this tight, and you're going to see me, that's going to be a recurring theme through making these. Always be pulling tight when you do this. If you don't, it's going to loosen up after a few uses, and then your handle's going to end up crooked in here. So what I want to do is shoot the fid through this tightened area right back here at the other side of the hole coming out. And I use that fid that's in there to get the rest of the rope passed through. So I shoot the rope inside the fid a little bit just to get it through the rope. And now I can start pulling everything tight. I can pull, get these twisties out of there. Keep pulling, keep pulling. All right, this is what you should be ending up with right here. And now I give it a really good tug, and I'm really going to wrench on this. And you're going to see me a couple times. I probably won't talk about it, but you're going to see me grab this a couple times and keep tightening it as I work my way around the rest of the handle, making it. All right, so I got that good and tight. Should look like that. All right, give you a couple different views of it. By all means, pause, fast forward, rewind here so you can see what that looks like. Now comes those 2 pieces of rubber tubing that we cut to 6 inches long. And if they're really precise, you don't have to do measuring through this next part. I put one of those, take my taped end, shoot it through there, and I pull this all the way tight until it is up against the handle. And we want that pretty tight. And again, I'm going to keep tugging on this as I'm doing this, so nice and tight. The next thing to thread on, got to put this down for a second, the next thing to thread on is your quick link or your chain link, whatever you're using. Thread that through and bring that up. Now there is a trick here to help keeping everything tight. A lot of people just want to make a loop around this thing. Don't. You want to come, sorry about that, it's hard to do and trying to keep it up in front of the camera. You want to pass the end of the rope over the top and back just behind this. And that's really key to keeping this tight. And you want to do it right off the end of the rubber tubing. So I'm actually going to stick the fid right there. And again, I'm pushing down on this tubing, making sure everything's tight there. Put the fid in right there, right off the end of this. Got my quick link right there. And here's where I'm going to grab the end of my rope again, come back down over the top here, behind the quick link, and now pull this tight. I should end up with kind of a reverse loop right there, holding that quick link in place. And again, I'm pulling everything tight back all the way down. All right, so I'm good there. Now comes the next piece of rubber tubing. Slide it over the end of the rope. And this is where it's really important to make these the same length, because we're using them as a measurement to form a nice triangular shape here on the handle and make sure everything is centered. And if you've cut these very precisely, it self-centers everything. And now, off the other side of the handle, I'm going to repeat the exact same thing I did to get started. Now obviously I don't have a black mark there, but what I want to do is have it as tight as I can off of the rubber tubing right there to make sure everything's centered. So, rubber tubing's there. I hold this firmly with my thumb. The key where a lot of people mess up right here is they try to make the loop around the outside. This is wrong. Make it around the inside. Pass it to the inside of the handle. And that's what you're going to then put through there. All right, so I kind of hold it in place a little bit, get my fid, shoot it right off the end of that rubber tubing again, and I've got it in the hole right there. And then I just use it to shoot through, kind of pull back again. Excellent. Pass it through. And I leave it dangle just a little bit, and now I got to make sure I'm really tight right here. Shoot my fid through. Sorry, hard to keep this up on camera. There we go. Pass that through there. And now I should be able to pull this all tight again. This will, obviously, see I'm having to tug really hard. There will be some friction in here for sure. And I want to give this a really, really good tug. All right, with that in place, I now have half of that handle is done. It's looking good. Got my tubing, that's helped self-centering everything. Gonna give everything a nice little tug yet on both sides. Now I need to finish the other side of the V. Optionally, I only put plastic tubing on this side. 2 reasons. Typically it's for the guy's hands. If they're going to get abraded, it's going to be in here. And on occasion, there's still girls that step on these things to climb back up the shoulders. I don't know why, but they do it, and it's also to save their feet. Some people like the tubing on the other side too. Obviously, you would need 4 pieces of 6-inch tubing then. You would put one on right here, and if we would have to cut the other end instead of having it on a spool down there, we'd have to cut it ahead of time, and we would thread that on at this time as well before we make this final knot. That's totally up to you. I don't see the point in it. I think it's just extra work, but that is totally your choice what you do with that. Okay, now we have to finish the diamond on the other side. I'm going to get my fid all the way on this time. I'm making one of the standard knots. So if you have not watched the section yet on the 2 standard knots and how to make them up close, you need to go watch that now. So it's one of the 2 standard knots, and it's the one that I call the permanent knot, or the more permanent knot. It's the one that goes in and really doesn't like coming back out. And that's what you want for this, because you don't want this to slip at all. Or again, your handle ends up funky. I do tape. Some people will be laughing at this. I do tape my fids on. It's just the way I make my handles. Or do my rope tying and that kind of thing. Or I stretch this very, very tight, but it helps hold that on. And now we're going to make that very, very permanent triangle out here. How far away? That's up to you. Whatever looks good to you. Probably about a good 6 to 7 inches out there. And you want to make sure it's even. I will say, having a second person help you right here makes a difference, because that person can hold the handle straight with some tension on it while you mark where you want this knot to go. Does make it easier. I'm going to do my best to do it here in front of a camera for you. Alright, just like we've made the other ropes at the basic knot section, the 2 basic knots, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm finding a spot. There we go. I'm going to stab straight through the rope. And I'm going to even that out best I can. And then I'm going to do a full loop around and pass down through the middle of the rope that would be going, the section part that would be going towards the boat. You do want to bury here at least about 8 inches, I would say. I tend to do a little bit more than that. Alright, with that, I'm going to pull mine out. Now, don't just yank this tight. Slowly get it close. I haven't yanked that knot tight quite yet. This is very important. This, again, is where that second set of hands comes in really nice to have another person hold this for you, and you can feel that tension in the handle, and so can they. So I'm kind of eyeballing this one because I don't have a second person here right now. I'm going to crank this. Alright, I am off. So this part is a little long. So I'm going to feed that a little bit longer. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit. I'm kind of playing with this knot back and forth before I really cinch it. Boy, that's feeling pretty good. Yeah, that's looking pretty good right there. So now I'm cranking on this knot. I'm going to yank this, give it a couple tugs right here. And that's coming pretty good. I want to have this little tail of about 18 inches. That's just scrap rope now. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit, and I'm going to chop this off. Okay, after you got that knot really tight, we got to chop off the excess tail right here. I'm going to pull up on it a little bit so it buries itself. Cut it. Smooth it down back in there. It is now buried in your handle section, just like that. And my diamond handle here is done, that part. Obviously, I need to finish up the 5-foot handle section yet for this. So here's the part that's going to be tough to show on camera. Time to get your tape measure out, and what you want to do is measure 5 feet from the tip of this clip, 5 feet down the rope towards that spool or the end of your rope, wherever it is, and you want to make a mark, a nice dark mark at 5 feet. That's where the end of your loop is going to go. Then add another 2 feet. I always tend to do 2 feet to make my loops, and then bury some excess if I need to adjust later. So then your final loop is going to be, or your final cut is going to be at 7 feet from this clip. I'm going to have to go off camera to do that, and we'll be right back. All right, so back after doing some cutting. My diamond handle section, that looks good there. I'm just finishing up the final loop that I need on this. I have made at 5 feet from the metal clip, 5 feet out. I've got a nice dark mark there. That's going to be the end of my loop, and then I got a 2-foot tail to work with. Time for me to make this loop. Got to clean up my fid here. Sorry for the delay. Now, I'm not taping this because I don't have to work it through the handle or anything else. It's just going inside the fid here. As I mentioned earlier, I do tape my fids on then to work with them. If you do use this technique that I'm doing, it takes a little practice. Those people who've worked with me can tell you that. They sometimes think I'm crazy, but you have to, you do have to stretch the electrical tape really tight. Otherwise, it'll get hung up inside the rope as you're trying to finish up and bury the tail. All right. Here's my mark. Here's my 5-foot mark. I fold that over. This should be now, if you watch the basic knots section, this is just like that. And I again here, because this is a handle that I'm probably not going to need to adjust. If I'm going to do any adjustments on this rope later, it's going to be on the main line, not the handle section. So I'm going to use the permanent knot here as well. Pass through. All right, I do make my loops a little bit smaller here than I do at the end. We don't need these huge, just enough to help thread on the rope. A loop completely around. If you didn't see that, I passed through. I looped once around, and now I'm going back down through the middle, back towards the handle on this. All right, and I'm going to give this a couple tugs that cinch that knot down. And then now I can pull my fid out. Can take the tape off if you want, leave it on, up to you. And now I just smooth this all out. My handle section is complete. Hard to see completely on camera, but it's all there. Diamond handle ready to go. Now, a couple people, those of you who made ropes before, are going to say, well, Eric, you marked it at 5 and buried it, and that's going to shorten it up by, an inch or 2. I get it. All these have to be tested, folks, and they have to be stretched. I hope I don't have to come back, but yes, I'm probably a little shorter than 5 feet, but I also know every type of poly E rope, show ski tack, whatever I'm using, I'm going to get some stretch even in this short little handle. It's going to end up at right about 5 feet, and then I'm going to do any adjustments I need to make to match this up for a doubles line, trios line, pyramid, whatever. I'll make those adjustments in the main lines. All right, fast forward, rewind, pause, whatever you need. There's the diamond handle.